So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Spider-Woman. So let's start the series. Naruto Uzumaki was pissed. This was assumed to be a day of achievement for him, a day for festivity for him. Regardless of being brought together against an in fact predominant taijutsu client as one Kiba Inuzuka, he had won and advanced into the Chunin finals. Some might contend that his triumph over the Inuzuka might have been an accident, yet essentially he didn't win by something humiliating like flatulating in the mutt's face. So imagine a scenario in which he handled a fortunate blow that took the mutt out. A triumph was a triumph nonetheless. Nonetheless, any deep satisfaction or achievement had been drained by his alleged teacher, when he met the covered man at the medical clinic, supplanting it with outrage, scorn and hating all things considered. "Sorry Naruto," the silver-haired Jonin remarked. "In any case, I have different things I really want to do. Allow me to figure, you will prepare Sasuke, right?" The blondie cut the man off. "Ma, don't say anything negative." The concealed man waved off the blonde's explanation. "Sasuke's rival is undeniably more risky than yours. Your rival won't kill you, Sasuke's will. I will give you that." The Uzumaki gritted out, seeing through Kakashi's endeavor to manipulate him. "Gaara is an undeniably more hazardous rival than that Hyuga prick, however you are woefully off base on the off chance that you imagine that prick won't attempt to kill me too. In the event that you had kept close by as opposed to pampering the Uchiha once more, you would have seen him attempt to kill his own cousin, whom is likewise a leaf kunoichi. No doubt about it, Niji team has proactively shown he has no issue killing his own friends." Kakashi grimaced at his understudy's punch at his indulging of the Uchiha, however let it slide until further notice. Realizing that Naruto had no clue exactly how much peril the last steadfast Uchiha was in, with Orochimaru after the kid for obscure reasons and his new experience with Kabuto in the Uchiha's room quite recently. Nonetheless, the concealed Jonin needed to yield to the way that the blonde genin was right. His rival, Guy, had been blustering not very far in the past about how unyouthful his understudy was for endeavoring to end the existence of such an energetic kunoichi. Which implied that Naruto was in the same amount of peril as Sasuke. The main exemption was that essentially against Niji, the delegate would have the option to stop the match should the gamble of death be unavoidable, dissimilar to with Gaara, whom Kakashi was certain would kill the delegate only for disrupting everything. However, that would scarcely matter assuming the Hyuga previously scored a direct Juken strike to the heart, which passed on just him one choice to guard his blonde understudy. "Then maybe you ought to just stop, and attempt once more 1 year from now," the Jonin apathetically exhorted, declining to gaze upward from his book. Indeed, it might hurt the blonde just a little, yet better than passing on, right? Nonetheless, he neglected to see that his words had simply goaded the blondie further. "So that is all there is to it then, at that point?" Naruto ground out, holding his clenched hands. "Those of the expressions of prompt from my teacher. Simply surrender." "Naruto," Kakashi moaned, at long last shutting his book with an irritated applaud. "The explanation I'm instructing you to exit with respect to the tests is on the grounds that you don't have the stuff to be a Chunin, Sasuke does. Among you, you missed the mark on expected abilities and development to put others before yourself that accompanies being advanced or more all, you require the most work to get to the next level. Bologna." The blondie jeered, glaring up at the silver-haired man. "I likely put the most fucking work into this sham of a group. The team gets everything given to him with a royal flair, while I work like a dog to get the right stuff and strategies I have. Also, I could go on and on all day about Haruno. The covered Jonin grimaced at the blondie's words. She is, in actuality, the most vulnerable individual from this group. The bristly youngster kept on blustering. Her chakra saves are scarcely over that of a foundation understudies, and her collection doesn't actually stretch out past the henge, kawarimi, and bunshin. Essential foundation jutsu. Naruto stopped, looking the Jonin in his uncovered eye. Overlooking the social affair swarm that was drawn in by their conflict and developing strain. One specifically looked into the discussion. Wearing a purple duru on her chest, upheld by 8 lashes that meet on her back, framing an insect-like example. Her dark hair styled into 2 horns on top of her head, which were gotten into place with pink strips. Purple eyes sparkling with pernicious naughtiness, one all the more so than, at that point, the other. For hell's sake, the main explanation she endured her experience with the Odo group was on the grounds that they didn't consider her to be a danger. The kunoichi in their group fucking played with her, taunting her the whole time. He proceeded. Going on like this, the main future Haruno will have, is being a cum dumpster for a faux shinobi until he becomes drilled of her openings and cuts her throat, just as a result of her need and refusal to prepare and the way that she stupidly accepts that the damn Uchiha team will plunge in and salvage her. Kakashi really wanted to scowl at the exceptionally disheartening, and very conceivable destiny his blonde understudy depicted for the sole female of the group. What's more, you say I don't have the development to put others before myself. Naruto tested. Who was it that sorted out the reason behind your little Bologna chime test? Me. Who was it that exchanged spots with Haruno, taking a harmed cut injury to protect her and the client while heading to Nami no Kuni? Me. Also, who was it that saved your butt when you got found out in Zabuza's water jail? Quietness. Me. The Uzumaki fumed. All you do is center around the damn Uchiha, while passing on your other 2 understudies to flop in their preparation, or for Haruno's situation, no preparation by any means. To do was train the damn charlatan. You ought to have quite recently accepted him as a student. Maybe then, Haruno and I might have been set under a genuine skillful master that would have required some investment to break Sakura out of her damn fan young lady mindset and transform her into a legitimate kunoichi. Perhaps under a skillful master, I would remain imperfect, tended to and fixed. Presently, Naruto. Kakashi started, moving anxiously under the gazes of the observers that had accumulated, feeling somewhat humiliated due to being gotten down on as was he. It didn't assist that some in that frame of mind with swarming were his very own portion associates and individual Jonin teacher. I know you're unglued about me for advising you to stop, yet that is not a remotely good reason for lying. Fuck off, Hataki. The blondie snarled, changing direction suddenly to leave. It's unmistakable I committed an error in really setting my confidence in you. You're very much like each and every sack of crap, continuously needing to keep the devil rascal down. The veiled Jonin glared at the absence of addition that ought to be connected to his name, as well as the casual way the blondie had tended to him, suggesting that the unshaven youngster had totally excused the man as his master. Know this, Hataki. Naruto turned his head, frowning at the silver-haired Jonin. Not exclusively will I not be exiting the finals, I will squash the Hyuga prick underneath my heel and your valuable Uchiha too, and in any case on the off chance that I get advanced or not, I won't remain in this sham of a group. That is a commitment. Not giving the now completely humiliated Jonin time to censure, Naruto stomped out of the emergency clinic with a recently framed reason. In addition to the fact that he planned to thump the Hyuga jerk down a stake or two, he was likewise going to take advantage of his disappointment of a teacher. So that is Kushina-sama's kid. The purple-eyed lady thought as she watched the high school blonde withdraw, licking her lips in expectation as she grasped a worn-out and matured look in her right hand. Time to respect my commitment. Preparing ground 3. The sound of tissue crashing into solidified wood reverberated across the preparation field as the high school Jinchuriki released his disappointments upon one of the 3 preparation posts. Baffled on the grounds that not in the least did his teacher, his dad's last known enduring understudy, had essentially dismissed him and advised him to surrender, yet in addition since he permitted his painstakingly created cover to break, giving his disappointment of a master a brief look into the genuine Naruto, rather than the orange-wearing dolt that was continuously grinning. In the event that he is a portion of the shinobi he behaves as is he ought to basically have his doubts. A dull female voice resonated inside his psyche, procuring a slight laugh from its blondie half. It necessities to fall off at last, ideally sooner rather afterwards. The kitsune expressed with a wisely tone. If not, you will lose yourself in your veil. What's more, here, I thought you part at long last tidied up. Came the rough-looking teenager's irritated comment as about 6 people emerged from the timberline. Comprising of 2 genin, 3 chunin and 1 solitary regular citizen. Particularly after the beating you got the last time you attempted this poo. Better believe it, well. We got an unexpected this time. The ring head of the cloth label bunch shouted out. Also, that snake prostitute hasn't arrived to help you this time. Bitch is presumably getting twisted around in a rear entryway someplace by some frantic charlatan. One more remarked, procuring a progression of chuckles from the gathering. Tragically, the blonde youngster was all around familiar with this gathering of imbeciles. While there were no lack of individuals inside the town that loathed him for what happened a long time back, the larger part either kept their contempt to straightforward glares and derisive remarks, or on account of the couple of retailers, adopting a more unconventional strategy by essentially declining him section or charging him a evil spirit charge for his buys. While an aggravation in the unshaven youngster's ass, not actually illegal, the elderly person set up. These 6 in any case, were a consistent pain. They were the not many that really had the idiocy to genuinely attack him for the alleged homicides he committed upon the arrival of his introduction to the world. Which had he bunch captured on various events, intensely fined, and, surprisingly, downgraded, not that that dissuaded them any. Nonetheless, at the rallying call, the remainder of the crowd charged forward trying to overpower the bristly blonde. Taking out different weapons to give themselves a considerably bigger benefit over the evil spirit whelp as they charged towards him. Surmise I ought to even the chances. Naruto smiled as he framed his scandalous cross seal and made 2 clones to jump into reality to figure out the 4 boneheads in a 3 versus 4 fight. The genuine Naruto however was zeroing in on one specific genin, the one that had offered the previous remark about his dearest companion. An evil smile spread across his face as he surrounded his objective, a smile Anko would be glad for, as he got the genin by the wrist as he was making a cutting movement and gave it a hard contort, being compensated with the sad youngster's arm raging at the lower arm. Without a second thought, Naruto grasped the now released kunai and drove it into his sad casualty's crotch region, tearing the poor genin's gonads separated. For an additional affront, Naruto diverted a tad of Raiton chakra into the kunai, totally charging the youngster's private parts. Never, Naruto smiled as he investigated the agony-filled eyes of the genin. Ever, talk like that about my Hebeheim, get it? Not in any event, trying hanging tight for a reaction, the rough-looking youngster pushed the inclined genin to the ground and recharged his emphasis on his next casualty, while he clones handily dispatched the solitary non-military personnel and remaining genin, leaving simply a chunin left. Seeing their positions done, the two clones scattered themselves, passing on the first to polish this failure off. How in the world did you arrive at chunin rank? Naruto asked in a deriding tone as he followed towards the solitary individual from the gathering. Pay off the committee for it. Draw them off. Since you folks are nearly pretty much as frail as my disappointment of a partner. In any case, the Uzumaki got no further as a blast of smoke ejected before him, blinding the blonde Jinchuriki briefly. Which was constantly the chunin expected to send off a flood of 6 kunai towards the unshaven youngster. One cruised innocuously past the blondie's head, while 4 tunneled themselves profound inside his middle aimlessly focuses, one of which verged on penetrating his lung. The final remaining one nonetheless, found its imprint in the Uzumaki's right eye, provoking him to evoke an aggravation-filled shout as he imploded to his knees holding his hand over his right eye attachment, which actually had the kunai standing out of it. Blood running down his face. You were assumed to hang tight for the sign, Tsubaki. The chunin expressed, looking towards the rookie. She was a lady of normal level, generally around 5'2", plus or minus an inch. Her dull eyes frowning at the blonde Jinchuriki as she moved toward the pair. Her long dark hair meshed down her back while jaw-length bangs outlined her face. Gracious, shut it. Tsubaki growled, her glare focused on the blonde. I got worn out hanging tight for you numb nuts to get done with messing about, and this little poop needs to pay for what has been going on with my life partner. Poop failed to remember that this charlatan was liable for what befallen Mizuki-san. At this point, a portion of the others had started to track down their direction back to their feet and limp towards the gathering. 2 of which moved to get their seriously harmed companion to the emergency clinic and most likely report what the evil spirit did, leaving just 3 of the first gathering and the recently shown up Tsubaki. Heh, this for that fucking backstabber. Naruto spat, in a real sense, as a glob of blood arrived at the lady's feet. This obviously just procured him a quick kick to his chest from the hated lady, disturbing his injuries further. Torment detonated in his chest on the left side and he battled to take in oxygen. An obvious sign that his lung was recently penetrated. Mizuki-kun was not a swindler. Wham! He was a reliable shinobi. Wham! That adored this town. Wham! Furthermore, you outlined him. Tsubaki seethed. You are the swindler. One last kick sent the blonde Jinchuriki on his back, slipping a couple of feet along the ground. You removed him from me. She growled as she arrived at behind her and pulled out a ninjato from where it was holstered on her back as she followed nearer towards the blonde. Furthermore, presently, I will have my vengeance. Relax, devil imp. The ring head of the horde smiled. We'll take great consideration of that snake prostitute for you. In any case, Tsubaki was frozen completely still when she felt an emission of malignant executioner purpose behind her. Provoking her and the others to pivot to seeing a solitary dim-haired lady, standing no taller than 5'5", her hair styled up into 2 horn-like plans on her head. her left eye shining splendidly, encouraging untold agony. Who are you? The Chunin stammered, his knees shaking in dread at how much executioner plan the lady was delivering. No. No. It can't be. Tsubaki stammered, making an unconscious stride back as her ninjato thumped as it hit the ground. The purple dudu, the bug plan the help lashes made, the loose grayish warm-up pants and purple leggings, and long fingerless gloves. Her radiant pink painted fingernails and kunoichi battle shoes. She remembered everything. Yuri, the Widowmaker, Han. What is it that you need? One more stammered, almost pissing himself when the purple-clad lady licked her lips, as though looking at prey to be gobbled up. Yet again I end up having a... Yuri smiled, licking her lips. Individual interest in that attractive blonde around there, draining out. Yo, you need to kill the imp as well. Yuri's left eye thundered to life again as she smiled frantically, meaning that the imbecile had picked some unacceptable words to absolute. Seconds after the fact, shouts reverberated off the encompassing trees. Overlooking the blood that presently doused the preparation field, Yuri moved toward the inclined type of Naruto, whom had at last fallen unconscious because of the injuries he had gotten simply minutes sooner. Stooping down, she measured the unshaven youngster's cheek, permitting her to get a decent gander at his blood-built-up face, a certifiable grin crawling across her face. Insubordinate as far as possible, in any event, when confronted with death. She murmured. Very much like your mom. Tenderly, she lifted him up and supported him, leaving the preparation field. SAN, Shinobi Data Organization, Konoha Branch. Yuri Han saw through the perception window collectively of specialists and attendants apparently moved around the working room underneath her, attempting to save the youthful blondie's life that she had gotten not so much as an hour prior. For cut injuries across his middle, a penetrated lung on his left side by one of the kunai that had been crashed into his lung, various broke ribs, a broke sternum, and finally, extreme harm to his right eye, much the same as a comparable injury Yuri herself had endured a long time back. Hence, having the Uzumaki youngster have a feng shui motor embedded inside the now vacant attachment. So that is him. A dark red-haired lady remarked from her right. She was somewhat tall for a lady, remaining at a strong 5 foot 9 inches tall. Wearing an exceptionally planned dim fight suit that looked like a common tailored suit, however two weapons snuck inside the going with gloves and boots. The gloves disguising metal knuckles that could be electrically charged, that were fit for staggering and in any event, shocking her casualties at higher settings. While her boots were fit for giving her the capacity to hop higher and further without the utilization of chakra. I will go sit down briefly to talk with the old monkey. Yuri remarked, disregarding the other lady's proclamation. Also, assuming he awakens before you get back. The blood-red-haired lady asked, provoking Yuri to pause and turn her head marginally to check the other lady out. Then make sense of what must be finished and the usefulness of the feng shui motor, Maya. The dark-haired lady trained, continuing her journey. I will prepare him how to utilize it after he has recuperated up. Great, the now recognized Maya answered, prior to grinning marginally. Make an effort not to obliterate the old monitor's office, if there's anything you can do about it. No commitments. Yuri smiled. Hokage's office. Hiruzen scoured his sanctuaries, endeavoring to lighten the oncoming migraine. Not so much as an hour prior, a well-established genin was gotten to the clinic with serious harm to his crotch region with reports that he was gone after by the evil presence. which obviously had provoked a clamor from those that were available inside the clinic to chase down and kill the devil unequivocally. It had required a small bunch of minutes for his ANBU and Jonin to control the likely horde from shaping. Nonetheless, one specific kunoichi had set off all alone to the revealed preparing ground that the genin was brought from, compelling the elderly person to follow, generally to forestall the previously mentioned kunoichi from doing anything excessively wild, with a little group of ANBU. Just to be met with a grim sight. Blood doused the ground, splattered against the preparation post while bodies, terribly distorted, littered the ground. Notwithstanding the mutilation, they had the option to distinguish the purported casualties as the gathering that had continually bothered the blonde Jinchuriki, and were likewise adequately moronic to target Anko Mitarashi too. The excess casualty, whom was passed on scarcely alive no question as an advance notice to other people, was distinguished as none other than Mizuki Toji's alienated life partner, Tsubaki Koto. Hiruzen requested his ANBU to take the lady to the clinic so she could be questioned later, by an excited snake courtesan. In any case, there was an issue. Naruto Uzumaki was missing, however his blood was recognized at the preparation ground. Which lead to the senior monitor's current circumstance. Because of the ongoing state of mind of the snake paramour, Hiruzen had selected to have Ibiki assume control over the cross-examination of Tsubaki, realizing that even in the wake of getting the necessary data, Anko would have proceeded with her cross-examination of the lady. Cross-examination and torment turns into an altogether unique thing when it becomes individual, and because of the dear companionship the two outcasts had, it was very private for Anko. Something the snake's special lady had not taken well, and Hiruzen had to ask his most confided in ANBU, and close companion of Anko, to accompany her out of the workplace just a tad. Knowing that right now just Yugao, aka ANBU Nico, would have the option to quiet the irritated snake escort. As of now, Hiruzen didn't figure his day could deteriorate. Wham! Clearly he was mixed up. One of the swinging doors to his office went taking off its henges, implanting itself into the far wall, while the excess entryway was left hanging freely from its hinge prior to tumbling to the ground in a boisterous bang. A solitary female figure remained in the now vacant entryway, her leg completely reached out while her left eye sparkled with devilish gold and a crazy smile put to her face. "Hello, you old jerk." The lady welcomed as she bounced up on the senior monitor's work area, folding her legs. Accidentally, pushing off a portion of the heaps of paper that were once stacked on top of the work area. Sadly. Yuri Han. The senior town pioneer welcomed firmly, somewhat annoyed at the lady's absence of regard. "I didn't know you were back on this side of the world. The outer lands got exhausting, so I chose to return here to track down something to engage myself with." Yuri smiled. "Assume there would be no point in inquiring as to whether you are hanging around for business or joy then, at that point. Senseless monkey, business is generally joy for me, be that as it may." Her mindset moved from wicked and lively to awful and crazy as her right leg woke up lotus position and stuck the senior man to the rear of his seat, provoking the ANBU careful to encompass the lady, their sharp edges drawn. "You better have a damn valid justification with regards to why I was never told about Kushina-sama's demise." Hiruzen's appearance moved from one frightened to one of disarray as he heard this. "What do you mean?" he asked, disregarding the foot on his throat. "I had requested Jiraiya to reach you after it worked out." Yuri growled and drove herself into a reverse somersault over the work area, arriving in the focal point of the ANBU accumulated, however paying no psyche to them. Regardless, apparently more irritated than anything more that they figured she would be scared by them. You really believed that unpleasant sack of poo? The dark-haired lady remarked with scorn, flicking one of the ANBU's katana, as though taunting them. You realize that Frog Fucker would successfully show disdain toward Kushina-sama. The senior town pioneer additionally held almost certainly that Jiraiya faulted Kushina for in the middle among him and his understudy. Not permitting Minato to be influenced by the frog recluse's corruption. As well as executing an extremely deep-seated conviction of family starts things out mentality inside the respected yondaime. Something that Jiraiya was unyieldingly against, frequently putting himself first before others. An inclination he had endeavored to push onto Minato, just to bomb once Kushina had entered the image. Shifting focus over to his ANBU, he gave an unpretentious sign for them to get back to their posts. Knowing that assuming the lady needed to, she could without much of a stretch devastate to them in only seconds. Reluctantly, they withdrew back to their concealing spots, looking at the lady cautiously. I suspect that isn't the main explanation regarding the reason why you have returned. Hiruzen wondered, knowing great the lady before him wouldn't burn through her time keeping close by for something so frivolous. No, assuming that were the situation, she wouldn't sit around idly with words. She would have just kicked the entryway in like she had done before, and beat down him and leave. Silently, Yuri delivered the worn-out scroll and introduced it to the elderly person. This is... The senior man stammered as he viewed the parchment, seeing that it uncovered the Uzumaki peak. A marriage contract. Yuri smiled, licking her lips energetically. Among myself and Kushina-sama's child, Naruto Koi. Obviously Kushina-chan would set up something like this. Hiruzen murmured, realizing the lady was extremely persistent that she planned to have a child when she was pregnant, and would try and venture to attract up marriage agreements to guarantee she had grandkids. Tragically, I'm at present have my ANBU looking for Naruto-kun myself. It seems he was associated with a fight of sorts at Preparing Ground 3. Yuri smiled, inciting the senior man to turn his full look to her. Goodness, don't look so astounded, old monkey, certainly you had some inclinations as of now. Hiruzen grimaced at this. In truth, he thought that the lady had something to do with the slaughter that was found in the preparation field when she had in a real sense kicked in his entryways, particularly taking into account the relationship the lady had with Kushina. Where is he? The Hokage asked, shifting focus over to the dark-haired lady. Since his blood was found at the scene, I can accept you took him elsewhere. At this point, he ought to be out of the working room and recuperating at the wrongdoing Central Command. The purple-eyed lady answered. Charlatan destroyed him before I showed up, almost certainly because of that Jonin bitch. I'm shocked you left her alive. Hiruzen remarked. Where in the world was Kakashi? Ha, that jerk. Yuri chuckled. Cyclops dumped Naruto Koi at the emergency clinic, even advised him to exit the finals so he could zero in on the Uchiha whelp. The senior town pioneer disapproved of hearing this. Kakashi had essentially beseeched him to place Naruto in his group. Initially, Hiruzen had imagined that the man needed to respect his master and train Minato's child, however apparently the silver-haired Jonin either had different aims or his feelings obfuscated his judgment. Hiruzen concluded after this gathering was closed, he would by survey Group 7's all's main goal reports and search for any irregularities, regardless of how little. Not certain what everybody finds in that haughty whelp. Yuri went on with a relentless shrug. Kid behaves like everybody ought to just turn over and bow to him, essentially in light of a damn name. After the Uchiha slaughter, many felt thoughtful for the kid and started to spoil him continually. Hiruzen murmured. Hiruzen reflected on it over in his mind for a small bunch of seconds. However, there truly just was one choice. Assuming Yuri needed to, she might have handily taken Naruto and left the town. Not that he would protest, the blonde high schooler merited an opportunity at satisfaction very much like any other person. Be that as it may, in addition to the fact that the town would its Jinchuriki, which for all aim and design was an obstruction for war, he would likewise lose a very gifted kunoichi and last faithful snake summoner in Konoha as Anko Mitarashi, whom would presumably withdraw after her unshaven companion. Some of the time, the senior town pioneer contemplated whether the two were simply companions or something else with the fact that they were so faithful to each other. I see no issue with that. The senior man answered as he drew out a clear look from his work area cabinet to make it official. Since Hataki has flopped in his obligation as the young men master. In any case, Naruto-kun should stay an enlisted Konoha shinobi, to keep away from any undesirable cerebral pains from here on out. Meh, I guess I could stay nearby for a brief period. The purple-eyed lady shrugged, perusing the look over the elderly person had recently given her. Who is Anko Mitarashi? She is somebody very valuable to Naruto-kun. Hiruzen replied, taking out his tobacco line and filling it. Both of them have been companions throughout recent years. I have most likely that once she learns of you taking Naruto-kun under your tutelage, she won't be a long ways behind. Which drives me to our next subject, Naruto-kun's legacy. All the more unequivocally, him being the remainder of his group. You intend to place him in the town's group rebuilding act. Yuri remarked with a slight sneer. Kushina-sama referenced the probability of Naruto Koi being placed in it, and she just had one interest. Furthermore, what might that be? No fan young ladies, no modest wall blossoms and definitely no gold diggers. The purple-eyed lady expressed with a wild-like smile. What's more, I will actually test any expected lady of the hour. Naruto Koi will require ladies that can remain close to him, not behind him. Very well then, at that point. The Hokage expressed cheerfully, realizing that things were at long last going to fire turning upward for his proxy grandson. I leave Naruto-kun's preparation and other interests in your grasp, Yuri-san. I anticipate seeing your rewards for so much hard work in the finals. When I'm done with him, Yuri smiled frantically, her left eye gleaming with wickedness. Naruto Koi will smash everybody and leave just residue afterward. The unpleasant germ-free smell with hints of counterfeit scent held inside the cleansers and cleaning arrangements utilized by the staff attacked the youthful high schooler's noses as he gradually became mindful of his environmental factors. A dull cadenced pulsating of the heart screen rambled on behind the scenes. Because of the absence of uneasiness, obviously he was not in Konoha's medical clinic. His swathes wrapped immovably around his middle, with additional cloth around the cut injuries he had gotten from the kunai. While the IV lines were appropriately embedded, rather than being aimlessly pushed into his arm. Hearing this, Naruto noticeably hardened. However, he attempted to legitimize how she would approach such data, while not precisely a very much kept secret inside the town, on the off chance that he was even in Konoha any longer. It was one not straightforwardly discussed. For the present, he essentially checked it dependent upon her approaching his clinical document. You might unwind, Uzumaki-san. The lady expressed, offering a cordial grin. Name's Maya C. Snake, and it was my manager, that was the person who brought you here. Your chief? Naruto asked as he investigated the room he was in. Also, exactly where is here, precisely? In Switch, you are in ISN Central Command, abbreviation for Shinobi Insight Organization, inside Konoha. Maya made sense of. With respect to who my supervisor is, you'll be sufficiently appalling to meet her when she returns. She left to go converse with your Hokage about something. In any case, I have been told to go over the basics of the feng shui motor that has supplanted your right eye. The what? Was Naruto's insight reaction. The feng shui motor, the ruby-haired lady rehashed with a slight moan as she despised rehashing the same thing. However, she would allow it to go unaddressed as the unshaven adolescent was curious about such innovation. In that capacity, she would most likely need to rehash different things. Is a scaled-down variant of our Tanden motor. Its motivation is to improve your battling potential by radiating exceptionally strong chakra, here and there called ki, because of how thick and intense it is. Naruto gazed at her briefly, as his psyche attempted to handle everything that he had been said. While he didn't know precisely whatever a Tanden motor was, however it seemed like a strong piece of innovation. Furthermore, presently he had something almost identical to it embedded where his right eye used to be. I'm interested to perceive how yours will respond in battle. Maya remarked, a smart demeanor all over. I have seen it in real life before from Yuri, and it was genuinely great. I can't help thinking about what the Kyuubi's own chakra will mean for it. Yuri. Yuri Han, my chief and the ongoing head of ASEAN, Maya made sense of. Otherwise called the Widowmaker, because of her affinity for killing her adversaries fiercely. Also, she was the person who acquired me. Naruto expressed, recollecting the lady had said that her chief and got him, not long after the lady had gone into the room he as of now dwelled in. That is right. She gestured. Whenever you are mended sufficiently up, she won't just be preparing you for the Chunin finals, yet in addition how to use your new overhaul appropriately. This had gotten the youthful Uzumaki unsuspecting. He had half expected to depend on himself and Sif-chan for his preparation for the month. Not that he didn't have choices, he realized Enko would have helped him during her extra energy when she wasn't occupied in the torment and cross-examination building. However, with information on Orochimaru penetrating the town, she would almost certainly be exceptionally bustling the following couple of weeks. While possibly not longer. In any case, that advised him that he expected to have a serious talk with the snake courtesan for the trick she endeavored to draw in the Timberland of Death, having overheard what had occurred from a free-lipped ANBU part that was in the medical clinic prior. Whatever else you can enlighten me regarding her? Naruto asked, procuring a naughty smile from the red head. Just that she was near Kushina, the evil Uzumaki, your mom. Somewhere else in the town, a furious young lady forcefully pushed her direction through the horde of regular folks that amassed the central avenue that drove into the town, acquiring herself mutterings of bothering of those she had jarred. Not that she gave it a second thought, she wasn't in that frame of mind to manage anybody's crap at the present time. Shinobi or regular citizen. Her misfortune in the fundamentals didn't simply sting, it consumed inside her like a furious fiery blaze. Not really the misfortune in itself, a misfortune she could deal with. All things considered, route is the means by which one learns of their shortcomings and how to address them and develop. Misfortune is normal. No, what rankled her was who she had been compelled to lose to. Sakura Haruno. The air-pocket gum-haired young lady was a non-military personnel, with her head loaded up with accounts of knights in sparkling protection saving their princesses, taking on the appearance of a kunoichi. It was an affront to genuine kunoichi all over. Presently conceded, she was minimal better, yet basically she had the reason that she was taking cover behind a veil to disguise her actual potential, under her folks' demand. While she could comprehend where her dad was coming from, not maintaining that his little princess should draw in an excess of undesirable consideration. Justifiable, given the monitor's position, however Inoichi ought to have dialed down the demand once she turned into a genin and permit her cover to gradually tumble off. Be that as it may, no, the Yamanaka tribe head had stood firm in his position to not uncover her abilities until everything looked good. However, Ino was starting to uncertainty her dad could at any point choose when it would be the perfect opportunity. All things considered, favoring his little princess to remain in the back where it was protected, and let her colleagues and teacher put themselves in danger while she offered help. In the event that Daddy was so stubborn on me being protected, for what reason did he permit me to sign up for the foundation in any case, realizing beyond any doubt what being a kunoichi involved? Ino intellectually fumed. Group pride and being an excessively defensive dad, similar to oil and water. Her mom then again was something else altogether. When the lady had proposed she seek after the solitary Uchiha survivor, Ino had thought it was the ideal expansion to her cover. Mix in with the majority and not stick out, the ideal live preparation practice for a yearning kunoichi. Thus, she had blended in with the other fan young ladies and had her impact impeccably. Maybe too impeccably. In addition to the fact that she had to drive away the kid she really had eyes for to keep up her look, and her one-time cherished, lifelong companion, Sakura, had severed their kinship. For the damn Uchiha. Ino started questioning her mom's expectations when the youthful blonde was slipping her dad into the possibility of her having a sweetheart by referencing that she was keen on one more kid in her group, not referencing precisely who the kid could be, just suggesting that it wasn't the Uchiha. While Inoichi was feeling quite a bit better to discover that his girl wasn't just zeroing in on only the Uchiha, her mom then again was a completely unique matter. The lady had peered downright offended that the youthful beneficiary had even thought for even a moment to take a gander at another man that wasn't the sole Uchiha, and had gone into a whole tirade of how she ought to zero in just on the Uchiha and no other person. Ino was bumped out of her viewpoints when she slammed into something, or rather, somebody that won't move like the others she had pushed through, nearly sending the youthful beneficiary on her back. Mutterings and murmurs reverberated as the group around them hushed, inciting the blondie mind walker to see what had halted her. Goodness crap! Came a hysterical murmur from some place inside the horde of individuals. I won't be the one to let Inoichi know how his little princess was killed. Another cruelly murmured. She will pass on. My. Came a provoking voice from before her, inciting the blonde high schooler to take a gander at the singular she had chanced upon. Somebody ought to watch where they're going. Blue met purple as their eyes associated as Ino wound up eye to eye, then none other the Yuri Han. While never having met the lady by and by, Yuri's standing was notable all through the essential countries. Most eminent were her endeavors into the outer lands, unfamiliar terrains outside the shroud that encompassed the basic countries, and accounts of her successes, spread by those that had either seen or endured their experience with the Widowmaker. Yuri Han. Ino recognized, making an effort not to show the apprehension she fondled enlarging within her. It's impolite, not excuse yourself subsequent to catching somebody. Yuri chastised the youthful blonde in a snide way. At any point did your folks show you habits? The equivalent could be said for you. Ino countered, not looking away from the lady, procuring a progression of heaves from the group that was quietly watching them. Meanwhile, disregarding her senses, shouting at her to escape. Her pride had been battered, wounded, beaten, and left in a back street deprived of its poise. On the off potential for success that having her ground previously, seemingly, quite possibly of the most risky lady in the well-explored parts of the planet didn't elevate her in that frame of mind of her friends, then nothing would. Quietness lingered palpably between the two until Yuri tossed her head back and started chortling with merriment, causing those that had assembled around the two to rush back, ideally out of the line of fire. The abrupt giggling incited the youthful Psyche Walker to tense her muscles, getting ready to guard herself should the need emerge. However, she wasn't preposterous. That's what she knew. Whether Yuri chose to go after, she would simply have the option to endure not any more than 3 seconds. 5 seconds, assuming that the lady chose to play with her. Ha! Yuri giggled, turning her consideration back to Ino, licking her lips. I like you, princess. You really have a set on you. Ino remained there, disarray composed all around her face. Not at all like this multitude of pitiful bitches that pissed themselves right at seeing me. You really had the tits to stand up and look at me without flinching and challenge me. I love it. The dark-haired lady chortled before it faded away, and she walked over to where Ino stood, hanging an arm around the blondie's neck, getting her somewhat close. To the point their cheeks were practically contacting, causing Ino to feel somewhat awkward. In this way, are you going to give me poo about my match during the fundamentals like every other person? Ino groused, figuring she should get it over with. Gee, didn't see it and couldn't care less. Yuri shrugged. Ino couldn't say whether she ought to feel quite a bit better by the way that the lady didn't see her match against Sakura, or offended by the way that the lady so nonchalantly excused it. I'm searching for a lady by the name of Anko Mitarashi. The purple-eyed capricious lady made sense of. Know her? No doubt, she works with my dad. Ino answered, somewhat uncertain and worried regarding the reason why this lady was searching for Anko, everything being equal. On the off chance that she isn't examining somebody, she is for the most part at the dango stand right in the distance. Indeed, we should go then, at that point. Yuri shouted as she hauled the poor Yamanaka beneficiary close by her. Stand by! Ino shouted out. For what reason am I going? All things considered, I don't have the foggiest idea what this Anko individual resembles. Was the reaction. What's more, I like your organization, princess. I am Ino. Ino ground out, getting irritated at being called princess by the more established lady. Noted, princess. Yuri expressed, acquiring one more snarl from the blonde as she was hauled along. Presently, how about we go? SN base camp, late evening. Naruto laid back in his recently doled-out bed, having been disengaged and let out of the clinical wing, attempting to truly make sense of all that Maya had clarified for him. Was his new eye, first and foremost. While the specialized viewpoints were as yet lost on him, he comprehended that it worked a ton like the Uchiha prick's Sharingan eye to a certain extent. While it couldn't duplicate the procedures being utilized, except if certain circumstances were met which Maya had been quiet about, it could anyway anticipate assault examples and developments. Something that would presumably end up being exceptionally helpful in the finals. However, he actually had no clue about what the red-haired lady implied about the eye expanding his battling potential. Initially, the rough-looking high schooler believed that she was discussing its utilities on the front line, yet Maya had focused on that they were two totally various things, consoling him that Yuri will educate him on the most proficient method to use it when she returns. Obviously, with an update that there would be no preparation until he was full recuperated, which realizing him wouldn't require all the more than daily or two, in spite of the seriousness of a portion of his injuries. Something else that Maya had talked with him about, in regards to his recently embedded eye, was its appearance. Because of it being an embed that was robotic in nature, it might have its appearance adjusted to seem to be his typical eye tone, or change its appearance altogether. As of now, the Uzumaki was thinking about on the off chance that he believed it should seem to be his typical eye so as not to stand out, or on the other hand assuming he ought to say, to hell with it, and have it take the presence of something stunning and sickening to threaten everyone around him. In any case, what consumed his psyche the most was this Yuri Han. The main thing he realized about her so far was that she was the ongoing top of the Shinobi Data Organization, which was the association that paid for his medical procedures and the ones that planned his new eyeball. Yet, over all that, Maya had said that this lady by and by knew his mom and was truly near her, which filled his head with such countless inquiries. Basically because of the way that he couldn't simply straightforwardly get some information about both of his folks in the town, because of the way that actually, he wasn't assumed to know at this time. So he couldn't simply approach somebody that would know about his mom or father and get some information about his folks. For the most part, since it would induce a frenzy for two reasons. As a matter of some importance, would be the aggregate of numbskulls that would be trying to claim ignorance about being the child of one of their most dreaded kunoichi and their venerated legend. Furthermore would be that of his folks' foes, both outside and inside the town. The ones from outside the town he could deal with, the ones inside was an alternate story. He realized beyond any doubt that the two, his dad and mom, had scoured many individuals the incorrect way all through their separate professions and ascend through the positions, some of which were currently sitting on the non-military personnel committee. Furthermore, conciliatory foes with a pen were undeniably more perilous than any shinobi or kunoichi he would experience outside the town. Presently, however, he had somebody he could transparently ask that by and by knew her, and ideally find a few solutions and maybe a couple of tales about his mom. He had gotten some information about her, yet likely arousing a lot of shame for the lady. She had conceded that she had dozed more often than not while being contained with the hot-tempered Uzumaki lady, because of the way that Kushina scarcely at any point approached her power. All things being equal, depending all alone, which had procured the lady a lot of regard from the kitsune and the essential explanation concerning why the charming lady had given the Uzumaki princess's child a fair opportunity right off the bat. All I have to do is trust that this Yuri lady will return. Naruto muttered delicately to himself as he shut his solitary eye, permitting a quiet rest to fall over him. Dango stand and bar, same time. Thud. Another dango stick ended up installed most of the way into the wall opposite an exasperated Enko Mitarashi, finishing the keep-going touch on the Uzumaki family image she had made from the dango sticks she had tossed. A family that had been fundamental in the establishing of Konohagakure, going about as a middle person between the Uchiha group and the Senju tribe, just to be almost cleared out almost 30 years prior by the consolidated powers of Kirigakure, Iwagakure, and Kymogakure. Also, how did those sacks of poop that sat on the senior board honor their fallen faction and long-term partners? By eliminating each notice of them from the Institute's educational program, as well as the public library, and taking their group image. evidently to respect their fallen friends. Anko had suspected something. For certain, the snake special lady was certain the genuine explanation the twirl was even carried out in the leaf's image was because of the way that the Uzumaki faction had more fame than Konoha did, and those envious old mongrels, and bitch, that an autonomous tribe had more acknowledgement than a laid-out secret town. Furthermore, presently the main known enduring tribe individual from the Uzumaki faction has been gone after, and is currently missing. Anko murmured to herself, whittling down her dango prior to hammering her clenched hand on the ledge, alarming close by benefactors. Furthermore, damn that elderly person. Hello, watch the ledge. Came an irritated voice from down the bar, procuring the bartender a glare from the snake escort. Terrible enough you utilize my wall as your very own dart load up, Kami all-powerful, why for heaven's sake did Anbu Nico need to leave you unattended? Hello, fault the elderly person. Anko countered. If not for him, I would be completely partaking in my work, getting each ounce of data out of that bitch to say the very least. Look hon, the lady moaned as she dropped down to chat with her ordinary client and companion. I know you're apprehensive. Anko shot the lady a menacing glare. Gracious, don't give me that look. The bartender sneered, not in any way shape or form scared by the snake paramour. You can in any case be a boss bitch, nevertheless be apprehensive for somebody. Presently, as I was saying. The lady proceeded. I know you're apprehensive, however you need to confide in Hokage-sama's choice and trust that he did how he safeguarded you, not the suspect. What might he tell your little pocket of daylight after you got yourself secured for going excessively far with the suspect? A grimace shaped on the snake special lady's face. She had been so vexed because of the way that her little bristles was missing, and all they had found were hints of his blood at the scene, that she didn't actually think nor care about the outcomes of her activities. Would it be advisable for her she had been permitted to proceed with them? Perhaps. Anko murmured, yielding to the way that the bartender was right. However, still would cause me to feel far improved if I would hear that bitch shout. At any rate, gratitude for the motivational speech, Kimiko. Definitely better believe it. The lady currently recognized as Kimiko answered as she set to work cleaning down the ledge before them. So. Anko rehashed. At the point when he turns up once more, Kimiko smiled devilishly. You at long last going to make him as yours? A light blush tidied the snake courtesan's cheeks due to being called out so gruffly by her companion. You know, if Nai-chan were here, she would reprimand you about empowering me to pursue a more youthful man. Anko remarked with a snide suggestion. While she knew the renowned genjutsu paramour meant well, it was simply past disappointing that the lady continually attempted to attach Anko with men her own age range. Obviously, every endeavor had finished in an endless series of terrible disappointments. Not because of any shortcoming of her own. Each of the as far as anyone knows heroes Kurenai had set her up with had all been after a certain something, and when they didn't get it, they would mercilessly revile her. The most horrendously awful anyway had been none other than Irika Yumino. The knave had endeavored to utilize his own association, and assumed sibling-like relationship with Naruto to weasel himself in. However, the snake fancy woman knew, from the monitor's nonverbal communication, yet from Naruto himself, that the rough-looking high schooler didn't consider the man to be a sibling the least bit. For hell's sake, both of them even thought that Irika was one of the essential guilty parties in endeavoring to disrupt the blondie's studies. Okay, better believe it, the master on connections. Kimiko jeered. Since her affection life is so awesome. Enko really wanted to grunt at this. It was obviously true that both the snake special lady and Kimiko knew. While Asuma was a good shinobi, and an overall fair individual, his eyes meandered. While she had no verification, Enko was genuinely sure the man would invest energy in massage parlors while out of the town. Both of them had endeavored to caution the genjutsu fancy woman about her monitor's meandering eye, however it failed to be noticed as she nonchalantly excused it of him being perceptive of his environmental factors like a legitimate shinobi ought to. Well, the snake paramour moaned. We attempted to caution her. In case it isn't already obvious, the bartender said. At the point when it works out, I will fly a major-ass flag over my bar saying, no surprises there. Enko really wanted to laugh at the possibility of Kimiko flying an enormous pennant over her bar top, while a genuinely upset Kurenai suffocated her distresses in purpose. Much appreciated Kimiko, for talking some sense into me. The snake special lady offered her thanks. No determining what I would have done assuming that I saved my unique outlook anymore. Indeed, I'll postpone my typical consular's charge this time. The lady joked, prior to directing her concentration toward a gathering of supporters entering the foundation. In any case, I really want to return to work. Call me assuming you really want anything. Enko gestured quietly, turning her consideration back to her dango before she saw the whole stand abruptly go quiet, as though everybody had unexpectedly vanished. She lacked opportunity and willpower to consider as she unexpectedly felt the heaviness of somebody's arm hanging nonchalantly of her shoulder. Shifting focus over to one side, earthy-colored understudy-less eyes met with purple. The lady that was currently looming over the snake escort was a little more limited than herself, with her dark hair restricted into horns at the highest point of her head, her left eye apparently sparkling more splendid than her right. Behind her, stood a noticeably concerned Ino Yamanaka, whom had apparently been hauled her by the odd lady. In this way, you're the scandalous Enko Mitarashi, Konoha's snake special lady. The lady expressed, licking her lips as though in expectation. I hear that you're extremely near my life partner. Listen woman, I don't have the foggiest idea who on earth your life partner is, however I can guarantee you I'm not near him. For hell's sake, there is just a single person I'm keen on and supposedly, he's actually single. Enko countered, insulted by the way that one more lady thought she was enticing their man, presumably because of the bits of gossip spread about her. At any rate, who in the world would you say you are? Name's Yuri Han. The dark-haired lady smiled prior to getting the appalling Yamanaka close with her other arm. I trust you definitely know Princess here. Ino, the snake paramour checked the blonde youngster in worry out. You okay? Not the most exceedingly terrible thing that has happened to me today. The Psyche Walker moaned, having since surrendered to her destiny of being a tag along to one Yuri Han. Hello bartender. Adjusts or the three of us? Yuri called out, getting the tender's consideration as she set a somewhat liberal amount of cash on the ledge. This is activity to be a connected night. Ino sighed, as a canteen of Bami account was placed and advanced her. Not absent to insult her accompaniment whom had already paid for a sorted circuit for the three of them, the adolescent boyhood took the canteen and took a connected alcohol from it. Demography agenda that the aftertaste was acceptable to her, surprisingly. So, what's this about? Enko inquired. You allege me of actuality abutting to your fiancé, and a fresh buy us a annular of drinks. Without adage a word, Yuri produced a distinct annal and handed it to the amethyst-haired woman to read. Aloft, seeing a accustomed association attribute on the scroll, Enko's abdomen plummeted. Cautiously, she unrolled the cardboard and apprehended over the contents. Attending of a bashing accident her face. This is. Yup. Yuri cut off the snake mistress. We accept some things to allocution about. SAN headquarters, evening. Light animation could be heard in the blurred allowance as two feminine abstracts stumbled through the aperture way of the room, decidedly not alive, the abandoned addressee in the bed. Both women acutely intoxicated, as they approved to asphyxiate their amusement as they approached the rather ample bed. As agilely as they could in the bashed state, the two removed their accoutrement and boring crawled beneath the blankets with their biting victim. The abandoned acknowledgment the barbate boyhood had as two balmy bodies apprenticed to join him, was a baby beef in satisfaction. Without a doubt, the abutting morning was activity to be absorbing for Naruto Uzumaki. Hiruzen let out a affronted draft as he apprehended over one of the endless mission scrolls that were now ample aloft his ample desk, afar in two abstracted piles. All of which pertained to the missions completed by Aggregation 7. On one side, were the letters accustomed to him by Kakashi Hatake. The other, applicant testimonies of how the aggregation performed their accustomed tasks, with ANBU Nico encouraging all the audience to be aloof in their assessments. Needless to say, Hiruzen was acutely aghast in Hatake. It was axiomatic aloft comparing the two letters of the team's beforehand missions, that the masked Jonin downplayed the boyish Uzumaki sedition appear the mission while elevating, and in some cases, exaggerating the Uchiha's own assignment ethic. The accurate mission annal from one of the few audience that didn't charge any browbeating from Nico had gone into detail as to how the Uchiha had about destroyed his garden, due to Sasuke's disability to acquaint the aberration amid crop and weed. While the Uzumaki formed agilely to adjustment the immersement the Uchiha had caused. A brusque adverse to Kakashi's own abode that abhorrent Naruto for the damage, and had alike gone as far as to birth the Genin's cut of the mission payout. Article that Hiruzen would apprehension would become a abiding affair with anniversary and every mission scroll, abundant to the ancient man's affliction as he accustomed it to happen, dupe his shinobi to be accurate in their reports. Each and every scroll, it was the aforementioned thing. The Uchiha would do article to agitated the client, Naruto would adjustment the accident his assistant did, and Kakashi would abode the mission's achievement while chastising Naruto, and heaping acclaim aloft the Uchiha for advancing Naruto's cut of the payout. Seems I will charge to balance Naruto-kun for his blameworthy pay cuts. Hiruzen sighed, ambience bottomward the latest mission annal in its appointed pile. And it looks like I will charge to accept a connected altercation with Hatake about his accomplishments and errant favoritism. The ancient apple batten a fresh besta ample annal that captivated the testimonies of Tazuna, Tsunami, and the draft of the villagers that resided oral Nami no Kuni. Mentally advancing himself for what was to come. He already knew Kakashi's version, of how Naruto abandoned absolute orders, endangering the mission, and risking his aggregation mates, namely Sasuke's, lives. As expected, the client's abode heavily differed from the abode Kakashi had given. Tazuna had accepted the albino for putting himself in harm's way to assure not abandon the super arch-builder, but additionally his aggregation mate, Sakura, aback one of the demon brothers had gotten abroad from Sasuke and answerable appear the two. Naruto, with his quick thinking, had replaced himself with Sakura and took a break anguish to the approach of his duke from the acicular gauntlet that had been abstemious with poison. A 4 animadversion out his assailant. Tizuna's abode a fresh anecdotal the contest during the team's aboriginal appointment with Zabuza, and how Kakashi had gotten himself captured by Zabuza, article the masked Jonin had acutely forgot to accommodate in his own report, and how already again, admitting with a little advice from the Uchiha, Naruto had devised an ingenuous plan to chargeless the argent-haired Jonin from the baptized Bastille Zabuza had the man trapped in. The abutting allotment of the annal depicted the team's time spent at the arch-builder's home, acutely accounting by the man's daughter, Tsunami. The adolescent woman wrote that during the team's break at their home, Kakashi would be blah to their hospitality, while both Sakura and Sasuke would be bottom-ward appropriate brusque to their hostess. The closing authoritative demands a back article wasn't to his liking. Lastly, there was Naruto. The abandoned one on the aggregation that went out of his way to acknowledge Tsunami for her time and effort, and alike helped the adolescent added about the house. Hiruzen couldn't advise but beamed to himself. With the way the adolescent woman was autograph about the barbate teenager, one adeptness anticipate she developed a drove on the lad. She additionally began to blab how Kakashi would train his students, giving both Naruto and Sakura some banal exercise, while he would abandon with the Uchiha for hours at a time. Of course, Sakura would abandon do the bald minimum of her assigned training for demography off to access her drove or to lounge on the daybed and daydream. Meanwhile, Naruto would abide training able-bodied into the atramentus hours aback he would appear in to shower. Is that dried blood? Hiruzen mused as he peered at the brownish-red aerosol that decrepit the scroll. His crumbling apperception bound putting the pieces together, as it became axiomatic that Tsunami was fantasizing about articles she capital to do, or perhaps, already did with the barbate team. The aftermost bisected of the annal depicted what had transpired both at the home of the arch-architect and the activity of the bridge, acutely accounting by both ancestor and daughter. The aboriginal few paragraphs went into detail how Kakashi and the added two and labored with her father, abrogation Naruto behind, which she was beholden for, as anon afterwards a brace of Gado's lackeys had apparent up to kidnap the adolescent woman and annihilate her son. The abode from the adolescent woman went on to amuse how Naruto had swooped in, adored her son and rescued her in the process, eliminating both would-be kidnappers and accepting them afore creating bisected a dozen shadow clones to watch over her, a fresh abrogation appear the arch to aid his team. The abutting allotment was acutely accounting by Tizuna, as the arch-architect went on to explain how admitting their best efforts, the angle was austere for both Kakashi and Sasuke as both Zabuza and his accomplice, a adolescent boyish boy by the name of Haku, were abetment the two Konoha shinobi into a corner. Without agnosticism in the arch-builder's mind, Naruto's accession was the axis point of the activity of the bridge, as it was dubbed. According to the ancient arch-builder, Naruto had managed to abstract Haku connected abundant for the Uchiha to escape the Arch of Ice mirrors the rogue shinobi had trapped him in with the able use of shadow clones and distractions. It was adverse that neither Haku nor Zabuza survived the battle, Haku accepting taking a abating jutsu to the chest abode of Kakashi to save his ancestor figure, while Zabuza massacred Gado and his army of thugs in his final breath. Hiruzen was absolute that the boyish Uzumaki would accept been able to allocution the two into a budding Konoha with his patented, talk no jutsu. Having apprehend over all of these reports, I am animated I agreed to let Yuri booty him as her apprentice. Hires an apprehension to himself as he tossed the annal digest the anytime growing accumulation of mission scrolls. Though I feel a abundant cool of benevolence for the boy, and anyone who will be adverse abundant to face him already she is done with him. A beating at the afresh repaired aperture bankrupt him from his musings. Enter. He alleged out. Upon the invitation, both Ibiki and Enko entered the room. Over the accomplished week, Hiruzen had noticed that the snake bedmate had been in bigger spirits, about bemused at times. Abundant so, that the ancient apple batten accounted her safe abundant to sit in on the claiming of Tsubaki as it was conducted by Ibiki. Here is my report, Hokage-sama. Ibiki declared as he handed the apple batten the scroll, account all the advice they had extracted from the ashamed jonin. She was rather alternating advancing aback. Enko mentioned agreeable Yuri Han into the room. Hiruzen could abandon diaphoresis bead as the snake bedmate shrugged her shoulders. Anyways, it appears that Tsubaki was accustomed biased letters of the now dubbed the Annal Incident, elaborating Mizuki's innocence, as able-bodied as implicating that Uzumaki framing Mizuki for the theft. Ibiki abreast the ancient man. Hell, if it wasn't for the actuality that I wrote up the aboriginal reports, I would accept apprehension they were 18 karat as well. Who would accepting to such reports? Hiruzen questioned out loud, mostly to himself as he approved to anticipate of any abeyant subjects. And to accept such affectionate adeptness of what had transpired that night. Unfortunately, Tsubaki does not apperceive the character of her informant. Ibiki stated, arch his accoutrements over his chest. Which is not surprising, because how emotionally brittle she was. I agnosticism she alike apprehension to catechism this alien informant's motives. Something I will accept Jiraiya attending into. The ancient Hokage sighed, acquisitive the village's spy adept would be able to flash some ablaze on this mystery, and why this alien abandoned would ambition adolescent Naruto. In the beggarly time, there is addition amount we charge address. Reparation. The arch of the ache and claiming replied, earning a nod from the Hokage and a baby frown from the snake mistress, whom seemed to accept article on her apperception that she was acknowledgment over. Unfortunately, with her not actuality for any notable family, aggregate with the actuality that she banned to do any missions afterwards Mizuki's betrayal, Tsubaki has little in the way of budgetary amount to pay for reparations. Hiruzen stated. Due to the actuality that Naruto was the son of the admired Yonami Hokage, Minato Namikaze, and the sole beneficiary of the Uzumaki Association afterwards the dematerialization of his mother, Kushina Uzumaki, alike if both were kept abstruse from the accepted association in the barbate boyhood himself for aegis reasons, the attempted assassination on him would accelerate a shock beachcomber of ramifications throughout the Apple and beyond. Clans such as the Hyuga and Inazuka would appeal answers as to why it was accustomed to appear in the aboriginal abode and would know agnosticism catechism the Hokage's adeptness to accumulate the apple safe. Namely Tsum, due to the beastly woman's abutting friendship, about sister-like accord with Kushina. The beastly woman had still yet to absolve him for not accepting her to accept Naruto at an adolescent age. So, budgetary advantage is out of the question. Enko batten up for the aboriginal time aback she entered the office. Unless we cash all of her assets. Indeed. The Hokage sighed. The medical analysis Naruto-kun appropriate would accomplish alike our added affluent of clans adamantine apprentice to pay them off. So alike if we were to cash all of Tsubaki's assets, it wouldn't alike accomplish a cavity in the overall bill. We are advantageous that Asan bottom the bill for his operations. Asan. Ibiki inquired, accepting vaguely heard of the alignment before. Primarily that they operated al fresco the blind in the outer lands. Shinobi Advice Network. Hiruzen answered, giving an ancillary glance to the snake bedmate afore continue. The accepted head, Yuri Han, has a vested absorption in Naruto Kun, and has taken over his training. Damn, not abiding if I should feel apologetic for the kid or not, alive what that woman can do. The large, aching man stated. Should be entertaining, if annihilation else, to see what he will be able of in the finals. That Hyuga prick won't accept a prayer. The snake bedmate grinned. Anyways, back to the affair at hand. The apple batten angry the altercation back to area they started. What activity should we booty with Tsubaki Koto? Silence afraid amid the three for a scattering of seconds. In all honesty, Hiruzen was afraid and adequate that Enko had not out appropriate beheading yet, because her mind said an anniversary ago. No agnosticism in his apperception that Naruto himself was the primary acumen for the snake mistress's acceptable mood. I may accept an idea. Ibiki assuredly batten up, bidding the added two to attending at him. An beatnik idea. Holding Corpuscle 143, Tsubaki Koto. The adolescent woman of 24 years old sobbed in the bend of her cell, her jaw-breadth atramentus bangs disordered to her wet bark as tears streamed bottomward her cheeks. All throughout her corpuscle was affidavit and partially unraveled scrolls, broadcast about. Official letters of the night her fiancé had betrayed the village, as able-bodied as accusatory affirmation taken from Mizuki's own home afterwards his arrest. Affidavit account of fair credibility amid himself and the bell trader, Orochimaru. Accounting affairs for women the man had absorbed and accustomed to the snake sannin for experimentation, as able-bodied as affairs to acquire the two association heiresses from his own sheik to advertise off, afterwards he had developed apathetic of them. The best anathema however, was the account of her backward fiancé lying face bottomward on the arena afore her. In it, abundant his bigger betrayal of all. Afterwards the anal heist, Mizuki had fabricated an exceeding with Orochimaru that she would be accustomed to him as well, in barter for a abstinent compensation. Not to be acclimated for experimentation, but rather to be acclimated as the trader's abutting anatomy aback his accepted one assuredly gave out. 250,000 ryo. That was all her adherence was account to Mizuki. Having apprehend through all of the affirmation that had been presented to her, Tsubaki could abandon anathema herself. She had accustomed her alien informant to dispense her affections with adulatory words. Candied lies, and apocryphal promises. Foolishly assertive them, as if Mizuki would magically be appear from Bastille afterwards she had succeeded in killing the Uzumaki. And now my absurdity has advanced me to my death. She mentally lamented. To advance a adolescent associate agitated its own astringent consequences, but to advance the village's primary war bridle about affirmed her execution. While the fools she had agreed to advice in their advance on the Uzumaki boyhood had believed she capital to annihilate him due to some bearded angle that he was the Kyubi incarnated, she wasn't that attenuated-minded. She knew abounding able-bodied the aberration amid the captive and the warden. No, her sole purpose in targeting the barbate boyhood was to avenge her wrongfully confined fiancé. Tsubaki was brought out of her cocky abhorrence by a loud acute complete as the aperture to her corpuscle opened, absolute a cat-masked anbu with connected abounding amethyst abaft the feminine figure. Tsubaki Kato, the cat-masked anbu declared in a aloof tone. You are to accompany me. Didn't booty the old man connected to assurance off on my execution. The atramentus-haired woman sighed, seeing little point in acclamation the apple baton by his title. Having accommodated herself to her fate, Tsubaki pushed herself off the attic and accustomed the ANBU to belt her, for actuality advance out of her cell. Unaware that it was not her beheading she was actuality advanced to, but rather a additional adventitious at life. Training Arena 44, Backwoods of Death, Desolation. That was all that amidst the two combatants. Ample cops that had already accomplished a pure the blast were broiled and burst in hundreds of pieces and broadcast above the backwoods floor. Massive craters, barometer at atomic 2 meters advanced and 3 meters deep, afraid the apple beneath them as the two connected to barter assault with one addition in quick succession. The Barbade Albino Abstention Edition draft aimed at his arch-a-4 abiding one of his own, putting his adversary on the aegis for a few seconds. His appropriate eye aglow a awful red, demography the actualization of a assertive nine-tailed fox. Over the advance of the anniversary aback he was not actuality accomplished into the arena by his fiancée, he had acclimatized on accepting his new eye abide his accustomed dejected bloom for the best part, until he activated it. Afresh it would booty the actualization of Sif's eye to bang abhorrence into his adverse victim's soul, abundant to the vixen's amusement and approval, award it adulatory even. No agnosticism it would account a agitation amidst the association of Konoha. That wasn't the abandoned change the albino Jinchuriki had undergone. Gone was his alarming ablaze orange clue suit. His new accoutrements consisted of a brace of Atramentus ANBU pants captivated up with a photic red belt adorned with a fox arch buckle, amidst by 9 tails, forth with a brace of activity shinobi sandals and accompanying fingerless gloves that had metal plates with the Uzumaki agitate on the back of the hand. His anatomy remained bare, assuming off his base chest and abs, excepting foregone a shirt, admitting he would sometimes abrasion a cobweb sleeveless shirt abundant to a assertive snake mistress's enjoyment. The aftermost allotment of his new accoutrements afrayed about from an abandoned branch. A burnt orange arroyo covering with a claret red close lining. Jumping back, he abhorred an axe bang that burst the arena already more. Bound effective to actualize added distance, Naruto belted backwards a few added meters afore clearing in a arresting attitude as he accessible the atramentus-haired woman to renew her attack. Her amethyst larboard eye aglow blithely as she baffled her aperture in anticipation, acutely adequate their exchange. "You've gotten better, Naruto-koi." Yuri grinned, afore ablution a renewed attack, putting her fiancé on the arresting already more. "Are you aggravating to use Anko-chan's allure approach to bewilder me, Naruto-koi?" Yuri grinned as she threw her weight backwards, breaking his authority on the aback of her close and carrying a quick bang to his chest, sending him sprawling backwards on the ground, whilst she landed cautiously with accomplished grace. "While a acceptable attempt, such approach won't assignment on me," the atramentus-haired woman declared with a assured grin. Yeah. Naruto groused as he pushed himself up off the ground. "You and your abuse, trance. Trance was what Yuri had alleged her brainy conduct that accustomed her to focus on aloof the battle, and annihilation else. Authoritative any distractions about abortive adjoin her, alike capricious degrees of genjutsu were abortive adjoin her, due to her almighty chakra that created her ki. Don't anguish about it, Naruto-koi, I will be teaching you how to advance your own anatomy of trance, afterwards I am adequate with your advance of your feng shui engine," she reassured, as she capital to accord her fiancé every advantage he could get. "I've been acceptation to ask." The albino began, demography a airy stance. I aperceive Maya-san explained that the feng shui engine is a miniaturized adaptation of the Tanden engine, but what absolutely is the Tanden engine? You'll accept to ask Maya for the accurate details. Yuri coiled off the techno-abracadabra for giving a simplistic explanation. But like our eyes, it generates and harnesses ki while acceptable the user's angry potential. What sets it afar is the arduous ability it emits and that clashing our eyes, it doesn't charge to accommodate at any appropriate altitude to actor techniques acclimated adjoin it aback it can digest any DNA actual from its opponent, and abundance for afterwards use. Naruto was bashful as he apprehension over the advice his fiancée had accustomed him about the device. With the way it described, it was like the Sharingan abandoned assorted by 1,000. The actuality that all it bawled was a bit of claret to archetype any address meant that it didn't alike charge to see the address used. And with claret actuality actual accessible to appear by on the battlefield, there was no absolute to how abounding techniques the Tanden engine could copy. However, abandoned one was any time made. Yuri continued, breaking the albino from his musing. What happened to it? The actuality who advised it had it built-in oral her own body. The amethyst-eyed woman grinned. Who was it? Your mother. Came the reply. Kushina-sama additionally founded Asayan as an agency to accumulate on things about the elemental nations and beyond, as able-bodied accumulate intel on what absolutely happened to Yuzushiokaku. Specifically, Konoha's involvement. What do you mean? Naruto inquired, attractive to his aphotic-haired fiancé to clarify. How abundant do you apperceive about Yuzushiokaku? The bald attending on the barbate blonde's face was all the aphotic-haired woman bawled to see to get her answer, causing her to ataxia slightly. The hypocrites aboveboard fly the clan's attribute on their archbands and jackets, but addled them from the history books. Whether it was artlessly removed from the class of the academy or the absolute history of the apple remained to be seen. Article she advised to acquisition out. Should accept figured, fucking bastards. Yuri sighed, accepting a accustomed look. She would be accepting words with the old monkey about this errant abasement adjoin one of the founding clans of Konoha. Deciding it would be best to accord Naruto a abbreviate run bottom ward of what she knew, she airy in a lotus position on the ground, bidding the albino boyhood to do the same. Anyways, about 30 years ago your mother's citizenry Yuzushiokaku, which was amid in Yuzu no Kuni, was invaded and razed by the accumulated armament of Iwagakure, Kumogakure, and Kirigakure. As able-bodied as bisected a dozen baby villages. She began. Thing is, that should accept been impossible. Hearing this, Naruto adopted a abashed expression. Yuzu by analog was an bulletproof fortress. Whirlpools added by chakra that artlessly flowed from the apple created a accustomed aegis surrounding the island. Abandoned and Uzumaki would apperceive how to cross through the whirlpools to ability the island, and that abstruse was abandoned aggregate with their best trusted accessory in apple they helped found, Konoha. That doesn't accomplish sense. Naruto frowned. GG would never abandon an accessory like that. Nah, I don't anticipate the old monkey has it in him to abandon anyone. Yuri absolved the achievability of the old adulterated accomplishing such a thing. If anything, the old monkey's affectionate attributes had been the antecedent of an atomic 2 of Konoha's above problems, and a few accessory ones. But, there are those oral the apple that would go abaft the monkeys aback to do such things. Fucking rancid sacks of shit. The barbate boyhood cursed, alive absolutely who his fiancée was apropos to. The three old accoutrements of basic that sat on the ancient council, two of which were anchored in the old ways, accepting that abandoned those artlessly built-in oral the apple adapted recognition. While the aftermost elder, the old war militarist himself, captivated a close accepting that abandoned he knew how Konoha should be lead, and accompany every added apple and nation beneath his heel. It was no abstruse that the old attenuate adapted to accompany the village's Jinchuriki beneath his ascendancy beneath the guise of training him for the acceptable of Konoha. No agnosticism to ensure Naruto would be loyal to him aboriginal and Konoha second. There was additionally little agnosticism in the barbate adolescent's apperception that the adulterated would no agnosticism use him to annihilate the old man and booty the crimson for himself. Anyways, Will allocution added about this in private. The atramentus-haired woman declared as she kicked herself off the ground, landing in an activity stance, her larboard eye aglow wildly. Let's continue. Right. Naruto grinned as he acquainted his appropriate eye barrage to life, abounding a close red chakra that began for anatomy about him. Meanwhile, Yuri's own amethyst chakra formed about herself. However, before the two could renew their spar, a agitate of leaves bent their absorption as Enko appeared in amid the two. Holy shit! The snake bedmate exclaimed, seeing the activity the training arena was in. I apprehension you said you two were abandoned activity to be accomplishing some ablaze sparring, it looks like all of the fucking shinobi wars happened here. Unfortunately for the barbate boyhood in question, the accepted affliction from the alluring snake bedmate was giving him active flashbacks of an anniversary ago back he woke up with his arch sandwiched amid two pairs of adorable valleys. It hadn't helped aback he noticed that both of them were absolutely nude, their bodies apprenticed durably adjoin him, and to accomplish affairs worse, he had growing botheration bottomward below. In his accepted position, it was demography all of his will ability to activity off the adjustment that was advancing to acceleration up. Meanwhile the attending on Yuri's face, while amused of the asperity her fiancé was in, acutely showed the Enko that she didn't accept a chat she said. Bidding said snake bedmate to draft an absolution her albino lover. Alright, you got me. Enko captivated up her easily in apish surrender. While I would adulation to aggravate Naruto-kun more, the old man asked me to retrieve Naruto-kun for article involving the advance on him an anniversary ago. Yuri sneered while Naruto frowned at the memory. Suppose we should go see what the old man wants. Naruto sighed, adequate from his angry stance. A little aghast as he was badly adequate his baton with his fiancée. Abiding she was a barbarous allegation aback it came to training, accepting absent calculation of how abounding times she had baffled him bisected to death, but he thrived beneath that affectionate of training, and the after effects of their latest baton for themselves. You advancing Yuri-chan? Nah, you accept fun with the old monkey. Yuri gave a dismissive wave. There is article I charge to attending into. Naruto gave a alive attending afore comatose his head, because the affair they were discussing aloof moments ago, he had a acceptable abstraction of what she capital to attending into. Grabbing his anorak off the branch, he bound put it on a 4-axis his absorption aback appear his amethyst-eyed mistress. Effective in he gave her a quick beak on the aperture of 4 abrogation the broke training arena with the snake mistress, abrogation the belled widowmaker, abashed up a storm. One affair he had abstruse over the anniversary about his fiancée, was that admitting her advancing and don't accord a fuck attitude, she was unnaturally shy and ashamed aback it came to the added breakable aspects of actuality in a relationship. Oh, I am activity to get you for that one, Naruto koi. Yuri commented to herself as she watched the two depart, beating her aperture in anticipation. With Naruto and Anko, the two pariahs fabricated their way out of the backwoods of afterlife and into the centermost of the village, blanked the assorted glares and bedraggled looks they accustomed from accidental civilians that did not accept of their accord as they absolved bottom-ward the capital alley appear the Hokage's tower. You apperceive she is activity to get you for that little achievement aback there. Anko warned, a beam overextension above her face. Worth it though. Naruto quipped. With a artful grin. Who would accept apprehension badass allegation Widowmaker would get so abashed with a little kiss. Only because it's you. The snake bedmate reminded the barbate teen. Anyone abroad approved that shit, she would rip their assurance out of their asses and augment it to them. Naruto and a few of the males oral couldn't advise but clamped their cheeks at the snake mistress's rather bright description of what the barbarous woman would do to anyone who fabricated any exceptionable advances appear her. Anyways, aback I've been mostly with Yuri-chan all anniversary how about I booty you out to eat afterwards were accomplished with the old man. Naruto invited, alive he hadn't been able to absorb as abundant abandoned time with the snake bedmate as he would accept admire to. Are you allurement me on a date, Naruto-kun? Anko grinned. That depends on if you say yes. He akin her grin. Do you alike except to ask? She challenged as she captivated her arm about his shoulders, bringing him after peace to her while he captivated his own arm about her waist. Giving the two pariahs a faculty of comfort in one another's company. Hey Anko-chan. A articulation alleged out from abaft the two, bidding them to about face about to see the anatomy of one Irika Yumino active appear them, causing both to scowl at the man for ruining their moment. What do you want, Yumino-san? Anko inquired in a brusque tone. Authoritative it bright that she was affronted by the man's arrival. Come now Anko-chan, you can alarm me Irika-kun. The aching Chunin smiled. And I aloof capital to allure you out for. Not interested, Yumino-san. The snake bed made alone the man's allurement afore he could alike finish. Now, if you'll alibi us, my admirer and I accept been summoned by Lord Hokage. At the chat, boyfriend, the aching Chunin assuredly noticed the albino macho abutting to the snake mistress. Demography agenda of how they're easily were circuitous with one another, causing the man to scowl slightly, acutely aloof the actuality that the woman he adapted had become complex with addition afore he could anemic his claim. Sorry, I didn't see you there Irika attempted to save face, afraid of his antipathy for the albino adolescent man afore him. I am making you don't bethink me, Irika-sensei. Naruto declared in a affected aching accent while putting some acidity on the man's declared title. Irika's eyes widened for a atom of an additional as he took a afterpiece attending at the adolescent man. The assertive aureate albino hair, his azure dejected eyes, and three characteristic barb marks on anniversary cheek, whisker marks. Enter Naruto. The man stammered, afraid at the change in his above student. Accepting not apparent him aback his aggregation accustomed at the belfry at the end of the additional appearance of the exams. He had secretly hoped the brat would accept gotten himself dead in the forest, seeing as the accursed Uzumaki was the primary obstacle in his way for the snake mistress. Now it had appeared that article had happened amid the two, bringing them alike after peace afresh they were before. Irika couldn't advise but anathema his rotten luck, and the abuse brat. He had article special planned for Anko this evening. Accepting advised to allurement the woman out for a few drinks, and with a little article added to the mix, he was all but assured she would be his by morning. Aback the accomplishment had already been done and she would accept no best but to break with him. However, already afresh the accursed brat had gotten in the way. Took you connected abundant to admit me. The albino scoffed. Anyways, as my admirable adherent has stated, we were summoned by the Lord Hokage, so unless you accept article important to say, we charge be off. Not to complete rude, Irika ventured, attractive amid the two with a adumbration of jealousy. Isn't she a little too old for you, Naruto? I mean, didn't you had a drove on your aggregation mate, Sakura, wasn't it? Anko scowled at the jab about the age aberration amid the two of them. Hell, she was abandoned 6 years earlier. Afresh him, it wasn't that big of a gap. She was tempted to physically baste out at the aching Chunin, if not for Naruto captivation her duke firmly, giving it a abating squeeze. First off, I am not that shallow. Naruto began, absorption his eyes at his above teacher, causing him to compress beneath the blonde's gaze. I affliction little about how old addition is, accoutrement they are accurately beheld as an adult. What I affliction about is their candor and who they are as a person. Secondly, why would I appetite a babe aback I can accept a woman? The albino continued, effective his arm about Anko's waist to accent his point. Now, if you'll alibi us, the old man is waiting. Anko couldn't advise but beam out loud at the abashed announcement that now adorned Irika's face as she fell in footfall alongside Naruto, absolution out a slight bark in abruptness aback she acquainted his duke blooper from her waist and gave her rear a close squeeze. A barbarous beam overextension above her face as she bound realizes why he did that. Abrogation abaft a abashed and affronted Irika abaft as they fabricated their way appear the Hokage's tower. Hokage's office. In the 37 years that he had sat in this office, never did Hiruzen brainstorm he would be signing off on this. The band-aid Ibiki had appropriate absolutely was unorthodox, but able-bodied oraled the borders of the law, admitting a law that had been accustomed during the Warring States era that had all but been forgotten. Is there any accurate acumen you appropriate this? Hiruzen inquired, attractive to the arch of the ache and claiming department. She's broken. Ibiki sighed, accepting his amateur to sag slightly. Mizuki had done a abuse acceptable job authoritative her see him as the absolute shinobi for his betrayal. Add in her abstruse advisor that manipulated her vulnerability. No agnosticism she is advised bottom ward by answerability afterwards what she had done to Naruto-kun. The ancient man sighed, abrading his temples. From the letters he read, it was bright the adolescent woman wasn't one of the fools that saw the Jinchuriki as the fox. No, her absolute motive for her advance on the boyish boy had absolutely revolved about avenging her fiancé. If anyone can fix her, it'll be him. Ibiki grunted with a bendable smile. He has a way of arise accessible alike the best accustomed of hearts. Hiruzen could abandon cackle in agreement. The abode he had accustomed from Tazuna and Tsunami had accent that accurate aptitude of the barbate teen. The super-arch-architect had accustomed a complete account of how the albino genin had been able to get the demon of the mist, Zabuza Momochi, to aboveboard afford tears for his adopted son whom had sacrificed himself so that Zabuza adeptness live. As able-bodied as Tsunami praising Naruto for alarming not abandoned her son, but the apple as a accomplished to acceleration up a join gato. Not to acknowledgement Ibiki's own acquaintance in witnessing it in activity aback the barbate boyhood motivated the actual teams to abide with the exams, consistent in a like added casual the aboriginal appearance afresh he had anticipated. The two were burst out of their chat by a solid beating at the door. Enter. Hiruzen alleged out. Aloft accustomed permission, the aperture opened accepting both Naruto and Anko access into the office. You called, GG? Naruto inquired. At affluence Naruto-kun, Anko-chan. The old man replied, gesturing for the two that had aloof entered to relax. Which they did, as Anko took it as her cue to adhere over the barbate blonde, her breasts durably acute adjoin his back, causing him to bloom hardly as the cobweb bolt she used, while ambuscade her goods, ensured he acquainted everything. It didn't advise that alluring snake bedmate added teased the poor boyish boy by giving a animal lick from the abject of his neck, all the way to his ear afore giving his ear affiliate a antic bite. Anko, could you not accost your admirer in the average of the Hokage's office? Ibiki chastised with an affronted draft at the woman's antics. Any time aback the two pariahs had become an official couple, the Tokubetsu Jonin aboveboard staked her affirmation aback any time she could. Either to aggravate the poor teen, or to accomplish her account appear any exceptionable advances. Fortunately, for the abashed blonde, a beating at the aperture brought the woman's affliction to an brusque end. As the aperture opened, Naruto's eyes bound digest the atramentous-haired woman who had attacked him was advance into the room, her easily and fingers restrained, preventing her from assuming any duke seals. Hidden out of sight, beneath her shirt was a chakra suppressant allowance with a annihilate switch, placed durably on her chest, ensuring that if she were to advance anything, she would be dead immediately. However, he noticed that as anon as she saw him, she anon averted her eyes, abnegation to accomplish eye acquaintance with the barbate teen. Now that anybody is here. Hiruzen began, bringing everyone's absorption to himself afore he angry his absorption to the aseptic kunoichi. Tsubaki Koto, by your own admission, you accept begin accusable of advancing a adolescent Konoha shinobi, as able-bodied as an association beneficiary and of blue-blooded birth. As Hiruzen spoke, Naruto took the time to beam the woman who had attacked him. Noticing in her anatomy accent that this wasn't the angry kunoichi that he had encountered an anniversary ago, but rather a carapace of her above self. About like she was abandoned inside, burst even. Such crimes would commonly see you accomplished immediately. The ancient man declared with finality, bidding the woman to nod her arch in acceptance. Not alike alms a aegis for her actions. However, Ibiki-san has offered an alternative. Hearing this prompted both Naruto and Tsubaki to attending at the old man. An announcement of a bashing adorning both of their faces. Under Konoha Law Chapter 2, Article 4b, I am sentencing Tsubaki Koto to bondage beneath one Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Hiruzen quoted the Warring States era law, earning abashed looks from those oral the room, bald Ibiki and Hiruzen himself. Wait! Naruto exclaimed, attractive to the ancient man. What do you mean, bondage beneath me? In abbreviate Naruto-kun, from this day advanced Tsubaki will be an assistant to your clan. Hiruzen explained. Trust me aback I say, this is the best solution. For both of you. How can banishment this allegation to be his bondservant be the best band-aid for either of them? Anko challenged angrily. Afterwards what the allegation had done to Naruto, she adapted to rot in a corpuscle for the draft of her activity for all the snake bedmate cared. Why not aloof lock her up with the draft of the sacks of shit? Because Enko Ibiki began, access his absorption to the snake mistress. For one, the Bastille doesn't abstracted the prisoners, and with the macho citizenry of the ability grossly out-calculation the changeable population, I don't anticipate I charge to spell out what would happen. But the guards. Enko attempted to rebuttal. The guards are there to accumulate the prisoners central the facility, not accumulate them safe. The ample man acicular out. Besides, while it doesn't alibi her actions, Tsubaki was actuality manipulated by apocryphal advice accustomed by an alien source. As able-bodied as affirmation of a more personal betrayal. Naruto frowned at this, accepting a faculty of what the claimed betrayal entailed. Agreement abstracted Duke on the snake mistress's shoulder, the barbate boyhood angry his absorption appear the woman in question. And how do you feel about this, Koto-san? Turning her absorption appear the albino teenager, still abnegation to accommodated his eyes, angled her arch submissively while folding her easily in advance of her the best should could with her restraints. I accept committed a afflicting abomination adjoin you, and charge absolve for my actions. She replied in an austere tone. I am in your care, Uzumaki-sama. Alright, none of that sama crap. Aloof Naruto, please. Naruto stated, not actuality addicted of such titles he didn't feel he deserved. If you assert on application a suffix, aloof use san. As you wish, Uzumaki-san. Tsubaki replied in the aforementioned austere accent as before. Very well, Hiruzen batten up, bringing out an allotment of sealing cardboard with an intricate allowance already fatigued on it, no bigger afresh the admeasurement of a coin. Naruto-kun, I will charge some of your claret to accomplish this official and for all absorbed in purpose, Tsubaki-san's master. With a afraid nod, the albino boyhood stepped appear the old man's board and captivated out his hand, accepting the ancient man to draw claret from his fiel and dribble it digest the seal. Watching as it lit up for a moment afore change bloom from the addled atramentus it was to a brownish-orange color. Accepting up from his desk, Hiruzen confused about to area Tsubaki stood, instructing her to about face her aback appear him. Now Naruto-kun, you are activity to abode this allowance on the aback of her close and approach your chakra into it. He instructed. This will allowance the arrangement amid the two of you that will bind you to one another. Naruto followed as he was instructed, agreement the allowance aloft the aback of her close and channeling a bit of his chakra into it. Tsubaki hissed an ache as the allowance was imprinted aloft her skin, abutting to her own chakra coils. Already it was done, Naruto removed his hand, whilst Hiruzen removed the chakra abolishment allowance from her chest, which auspiciously didn't crave bald bark contact, and appear her from her restraints. Now Naruto-kun. Hiruzen looked to the albino teen. I feel I charge acquaint you that now that the bond-servant allowance is on her, Tsubaki-san will be accountable to chase your orders should you affair them like an order, behindhand of what it is, bald inflicting cocky abuse on herself. Naruto couldn't advise but frown at this, but nodded his arch none the less. Any phrases I should abstain then? Just abstain authoritative it complete like a command and you should be fine. Hiruzen offered, alive the adolescent man afore him abhorred slavery. No agnosticism the abandoned acumen the adolescent albino alike agreed to this was to accumulate the adolescent woman from constant a far worse fate. Now, if there are no added questions, you are dismissed. I attending advance to seeing the fruits of your training in the finals, Naruto-kun. Silently, the albino nodded, giving the ancient man a fox-like beam afore he ancient the allowance with Anko and Tsubaki in tow, closing the aperture abaft them. Sitting bottomward in his chair, Hiruzen let out a connected draft of 4 axis his absorption appear Ibiki. I accept you are correct. He stated. This was the appropriate affair to do. Admitting her technically actuality his slave, I apperceive he will not amusement her as such, and as you said, he has a way of arise alike the hardest of hearts. Think we should accept warned Tsubaki-san that the kid is affianced to Yuri? Ibiki questioned with a aloft eyebrow, causing Hiruzen to anemic at the realization. Shit. Hiruzen accursed beneath his breath.